And all right, it looks like we're live. So any of you on our streaming platforms, if you have any questions as we talk through today, feel free to drop them in the chats. You can DM me, text me, all the options are open. Um, for those of you who haven't met me yet, I'm a realtor in Utah. I live in West Jordan, so I generally work with clients about an hour in any direction, so that's pretty well up to Ogden, up to Park City, out to Tooele, and down to Santaquin, and kind of everywhere in between. And I have had days that I have been up near Ogden and have to go down by Provo and come back. So that's just the job. Um, Part of today, we wanted to speak about kind of a series that I've started doing about a little bit more detail about neighborhoods and areas in Utah, how to make sure you're finding a space that you can be your authentic self, that feels safe, and all that good stuff. So today I wanted to focus in on finding a neighborhood that actually, feels like home, feels like you, it's your people, it's your area. I've lived in Utah my whole life. I've been in the Salt Lake Valley for, gosh, I think about 15 years now. I've spent a couple years in St. George, and then the rest of the time was in Utah County. So I've got a pretty well diverse perspective, seeing most of the state. One of the things that I think that's important when you're thinking about finding a neighborhood that feels like home is kind of envisioning what what does it look like? What does it feel like? So oftentimes when I work with clients, I kind of take them through a little process of like, hey, if you had to like let's sit for a minute and just kind of close your eyes and envision when you walk out your front door, what do you see? What does it look like? What do you feel? What do you hear? What do you smell? All the senses pulling in together. For some people, that is like a downtown, urban, bustling, people walking up and down the sidewalk, really lively area. That kind of gives them energy and excites them. People like me, when I go out my front door, I want silence. Like my home is kind of my Zen space. So for me, it's my spa retreat coming home to wind down and not necessarily increase energy because I've already had a lot of energy throughout the day. That also kind of goes with my personality. I'm a little bit introvert, a little bit extrovert. So I go out and explore and have that extroverted, but then when I come home, I'm pretty introverted and I'm probably climbing in the tub and having a quiet time. Using that information though that you learn from kind of going through that practice of what does it sound like, what does it feel like, uh, taking those things that feel and are important to you and kind of matching those to where does that exist in Utah. So there's kind of a couple main areas in the Salt Lake Valley I'll talk through. The first is kind of your urban area. So that's kind of your downtown area, a little bit into South Salt Lake. This is where you see like industrial style homes, condos, townhomes, high rises. There's usually a good bit of activity there. Um, I always love the quote. I think it's from Virginia Woolf, and she talks about kind of the liveliness of the city, the violent jolt of the city. And when I go to New York, I feel the same way. I'm so excited. I'm alive. But after a week of being in New York or even spending too long downtown, I kind of have that feeling of like, gosh, I haven't touched dirt. I've just been on concrete all day. I want to go have a quiet, safe, or not necessarily safe. Downtown is safe, but a quiet, secluded, closed off space for me. You also have a lot of suburban areas in the Salt Lake area. So further east on the Salt Lake County, all the way from let's see, what is it? Foothill, Mill Creek, Sandy, Murray, Draper, that whole side, Cottonwood. Those are all a lot of the kind of family neighborhoods, bigger homes. You also have very similar on the west side. So me, I'm in West Jordan, out near 4800 West. And this strip, you've got West Valley at the top, you've got Kearns Taylorsville, West Jordan, South Jordan, which has Daybreak, and then Harriman. So this big strip here on this side, most of which as well is kind of that suburban neighborhood area and feel. My neighborhood specifically, these are homes that have 4 to 6 bedrooms. They're around 3,000 square feet. They have a front yard, a backyard, kind of your traditional single family homes. Now, there are also pockets of townhomes and condos spread all throughout the valley. So if that's kind of the life, you can still match that and not have to buy such a big home if you don't want a big home or don't want to take care of a yard. A lot of options there. The other big area that we see in Utah is kind of our military area. So up around Hill Air Force Base near Ogden, generally about a good 20-minute area all around Hill Air Force Base. There's a lot of military folks, there's a lot of military families. You've got people that come that get essentially kind of deployed here to this base, but then get reassigned to other bases and back and forth. So there are a lot of turnover in those areas. We also have Camp Williams, which is near Saratoga, Saratoga Springs. So you do have a lot of kind of military presence in that area as well. Provo and Orem, kind of in Utah Valley. Provo and Orem, you see a lot of kind of older homes, especially in Provo, and you see a lot of younger crowds because of the universities. Utah Valley University, BYU, other small ones here and there. And we have that in Salt Lake as well with the U, right up close to the U. You do feel that student vibe. There's a lot of student housing, a much younger population. Um, those end up being kind of close to the universities themselves. So in Provo, for example, you do have much further east and south that is more just your traditional neighborhoods. But you do have a pretty awesome kind of downtown area in Provo on Provo Center Street. There's townhomes nearby, there's apartments, a lot of different options there, and it provides that same kind of hustle and bustle as downtown Salt Lake, but downtown Provo. Now, a lot of your areas from Highland, Alpine, on the east side, Linden, Pleasant Grove, kind of down to Orem, those are again a lot of the suburban areas. Vineyard, on the west side of the freeway, has kind of become a little bit more of an urban area. That used to be a huge steel manufacturing, Geneva Steel. As time has gone on, that area has been developed into housing, and you see a lot more modern type homes, condos, townhomes, theaters, shopping centers, all that there. Your other area to kind of consider is Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain, Lehigh, kind of that other area there. A lot of that area is traditional single family homes, suburban neighborhoods. There are a lot of townhomes in those areas as well. That's become very popular out in that area. It's nice to be further away from kind of city, town, have a little quieter. That's why I like out here, West Jordan and 4800 West. Um, but then you're still close enough that you can commute and get to where you need for work or so forth. Now, a couple other things to think about when trying to decide a neighborhood that really feels like home, besides just, suburban, urban, kind of a military area, non-military area, college, young area, is what does your day-to-day life look like? Um, are you the type of person who enjoys walking to a park, walking to a coffee shop, walking to the grocery store? Or are you the type of person that really doesn't have a preference for that? And just, Utah's often a driving city. a driving state. So if you do enjoy that kind of walking experience, some of those areas like Sugar House, there's a lot of uh, businesses, coffee shops, grocery stores that are really within walking distance. Out here in West Jordan, to compare, for me to walk to the grocery store, it's probably at least a 45-minute walk. And I'd have to kind of zigzag all around to get there. It's not very close, and it's not even a straight shot to get there. Even biking there sometimes feels a little far. There are other walking areas, like I said, Provo, downtown Provo. There are some spots in Orem and in Vineyard now that they've kind of created that urban environment. And there's also a lot of downtown walking areas downtown in Salt Lake. Now, trying to think of like your tribe, your people, where do you find those? Where's a good spot in all of these once you've kind of made a couple selections, but how do you take that one step further? Some of my suggestions are things like social groups, community groups, and different Facebook groups, and even businesses. If you're maybe an outdoor enthusiast, where are those outdoor businesses? Likely, maybe over in Cottonwood near the base of Big or Little Cottonwood Canyon, um, base of Mill Creek Canyon, the kind of where those businesses are that match your interests. Likely there's going to be folks living in those areas who have similar interests. So looking for those different kind of social or community groups, and kind of seeing like where do they meet up frequently? Is there a couple people that kind of host at their home for different events? I also love Facebook groups. Almost every neighborhood across the valley has created some sort of Facebook group. They serve a few purposes. One, it's intended to help generate community and have people, closer, get to know your neighbors. But we also find that Karens pop up on those Facebook groups for neighborhoods quite frequently. People, yelling about the kids going up and down the street on their like motorcycle, moped, different things. I see that quite a bit in my neighborhood group. But that's telling. That gives you a good perspective of what that's going to be like in that neighborhood. As you're walking your dog up and down the street, are there often dogs that are off leash that could come up and potentially get in a fight with your dog? I've had that a lot in my neighborhood. I don't have any dogs currently, but there's many times I've had to fight off a dog. Um, it's annoying. There's obviously city laws for that, but just getting that information from a Facebook group, from others in the area, a great way to kind of really dig in and see what is it like to live there. Couple other things that I do recommend once you've kind of narrowed down to a smaller neighborhood, drive through the neighborhood and drive through different times of day, different days of the week. Do people wave as they're walking up and down the street? Do they wave to you? If you wave, do they wave back? Do you see signs in people's yards, flags, political LGBT flags? That'll also give you a good sense of what is the neighborhood like? What are the folks like that live here? What are their thoughts? What are their beliefs? What's important to them? Um, are there signs in windows? People talking. Are the parks just empty and nobody's going to them? Or do you see a lot of people showing up and there's a little more community that's happening there? I love going to Sugar House Park as an example because you see so many people just hanging out on the grass, having a good time, having a little picnic, reading a book, people walking around the water area, feeding the ducks, even though the sign says don't feed the ducks. um, that compared to some of these parks out here in West Jordan, granted they're much smaller in size, but many times I go to my neighborhood parks, nobody's there. I personally don't mind that because I love the quiet and I want to go for a kind of a secluded walk by myself. But I also have two parks right in my neighborhood. Sugar House, depending where you are, you may only have Liberty Park or Sugar House Park. Those may be a little bit further that you have to drive to. A lot of the suburban neighborhoods, they generally have some green spaces that they have speckled in to still have that walking feel, but it's not shops and businesses and coffee shops. Um, the other couple things that I was thinking about when trying to find a neighborhood that really feels like your own, um, understanding commute times and traffic. If you're regular kind of 8 to 5, 8 to 4, 9 to 5 kind of role, depending where you would have to travel to for work, that can sometimes add 40 minutes, um, 20 minutes, maybe even 10 minutes, depending where you are. Over here on the west side with West Jordan, for example, the traffic is pretty heavy in the morning going eastbound. And then in the evening around 4 to 6, it's pretty heavy coming westbound. That seems to be the natural commute. So if I'm taking 90th or Bangalore, any of those areas, if I'm locked into those times that I have to be somewhere, I have to generally add 10 to 20 minutes to make sure I get there on time. That can make a big deal for a lot of people. Some folks in other states, an hour commute is not unheard of. It's common. I think in Utah, most people aim for around 20 minutes is what the tolerance seems to be for a commute. I know that's for me, and I hear a lot of people say that that's about where their threshold is. So that's a big part of understanding where you live and not getting home every day and being frustrated that it's so far away or it takes so long to get home. You end up kind of building a little bit of resentment for that home. So again, we can find those same things in different spots that really make you feel like home. Um, the after hours vibe is kind of what I found as somebody was talking about as a recommendation for this. And this kind of speaks to my comment of drive through the neighborhood at different times. What is it like when it's almost bedtime and the sun's starting to set? Is the neighborhood becoming a party? Do you feel a little uncertain when you go through that neighborhood? Or is it nice and quiet? That's my neighborhood again, but depends what you like, what's important for you. One of my next sessions that we're going to talk about is called "Where Not to Live in Utah." Really good stuff in there. Check out my events page on my blog, on my website, kaprealestate.com/events. I've got that one upcoming. We'll dig into where to live in Utah and finding a good neighborhood, but a very different perspective with that idea of where not to live, or at least my recommendation of where not to live. Um, the last big thing that I will leave you with as a consideration, HOAs. And again, I have an upcoming session that I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of HOAs. Personally, I'm not an HOA person. I've lived in them and they have their purposes. They're great, but they're not for me. Uh, that is a big question for you because that will impact almost your day-to-day life of what it looks like living in an area that has an HOA and making sure that that feels like home. I have some clients I'm helping right now purchase a townhome, and it is in an HOA. Uh, they've done tons of due diligence. They've literally gone and talked to the neighbors. What is it like to live here? What is the HOA like? How are the rules enforced? Are people super picky that if my grass gets this much too tall, am I going to get a fine? There's a lot of rules that can be imposed with HOAs. And if you feel good with those rules, fantastic. That is your perfect environment. That's your people, that's your home. This one that I'm helping these clients with, everything that they're hearing from a lot of the neighbors is there's a big community feel. They have like community, like HOA kind of get-togethers periodically. They have parties, they have different events to make sure you're not just paying into this HOA and you have to abide by the rules. You're actually getting something out of it and you're building a community as part of it. That sounds amazing. That sounds great. There's also other HOAs where all they do is take care of like snow removal and just the insurance for the properties. Fantastic. I love that too. Part of why I don't love HOAs myself is I want the flexibility to do what I want with my home. Um, I went to auto school, so I take care of the maintenance on my cars. I literally had a couple years ago that I was replacing the brakes on my truck. So I've got my truck jacked up in my driveway. Parts I had didn't fit the truck, even though they said that they did. So I literally had to order new parts, and it took a few days. So as awkward as it was, my truck was up on blocks in my driveway for a couple days. Um, I understand the purpose of HOAs, and maybe some people don't like that look, that feel, and neighbors who have 12 cars on their property totally understand that, totally get that. But I feel like I want and need that flexibility that if I need to have my truck and do a repair for a couple days on my driveway, I should be able to do that. Maybe it's control issues, I don't know. But I'm personally not an HOA person, but there are lots of good uses for them and a lot of folks who really enjoy them. So I don't discredit them. Okay, I'm going to wrap up for today. Thank you all for joining. Look forward to meeting you all on one of my next live streaming events. The registration links are on my website again. But if you have any other questions in the meantime, I do also have on my website a session or a spot where you can book a calendar on my calendar. It's kaprealestate.com/book. We can talk about whatever's important to you. If you're thinking about buying or selling, um, even if you're a year out from wanting to move forward, let's talk and maybe put together a plan and see what makes sense for you so that you are the most prepared when that time comes. No pressure, no sales pitch, just conversation. That's how I roll. Um, you'll see that as well in my reviews and my comments. So thanks. Have a good summer. We'll talk to you all soon.